I knew someone else was inside the gym when the locker I had just opened slammed shut behind me. I was standing alone in the women's changing room at 1:14 in the morning. At least, I thought I was alone. I had started going to that gym late because it was quieter. No waiting for machines, no groups standing around talking. Just me, my headphones, and an almost empty building. It was cold outside, raining lightly, and the parking lot was almost empty when I arrived. I remember seeing only 2 other cars near the entrance, a white delivery van and an older dark hatchback parked far under one of the dead lamps. I noticed the hatchback because it looked abandoned, fog on the windows, no movement. Inside, the front desk was empty. That was unusual, but not impossible. The night staff guy sometimes disappeared into the back office or cleaning closet. I tapped my membership card, heard the gate click, and walked in. One man was using an elliptical near the far windows. Another person was in the free weights area with his hood up. I did a quick warm-up, then headed to the changing room to drop off my coat and water bottle. That was when I heard the locker door slam. Right behind me. I turned immediately. The locker I had opened, number 43, was shut. I had left it wide open while I bent down to put my shoes inside. There was no draft strong enough to move those metal doors, and I had not touched it. I stared at it for a second, then pulled it open again. My shoes were still inside, but my phone was not. I had set it on the bench behind me while taking off my jacket. I looked around the room. Empty benches, empty sinks, no footsteps, no cough, nothing. Then I heard a soft vibration. My phone was inside locker 46, the locker right next to mine. Closed. I hadn't opened that locker. I pulled the handle. Locked. The vibration stopped. At first, I thought someone was messing with me. Maybe the cleaning staff, maybe another woman in the changing room I hadn't seen. I called out and asked if anyone was there. No answer. I went back onto the gym floor to ask at reception. Still nobody at the desk. I leaned over and saw the office door in the back standing half open with the light off. I called for the staff guy. Nothing. The man on the elliptical was gone now. So was the person in the weights area. That happened so quietly I only noticed because the gym suddenly felt wrong. Too still. Music overhead, air conditioning, but no normal gym sounds. Just empty space. I should have left then. Instead, I went behind the desk. I wanted my phone back, and I didn't want to walk outside to the car without it. In the office, I found a swivel chair, some cleaning supplies, and a wall of monitors. The staff guy was nowhere on any of them. But when I looked at the feed for the corridor outside the locker rooms, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A man was standing just outside the women's changing room door, not moving. He was wearing a dark hoodie and gym shorts. His face was angled down, so the camera only caught the top of his head and his shoulders. He wasn't trying to enter. He was just standing there, close to the wall, as if he was listening. Then he lifted one hand and tried the handle. The door opened inward a few centimeters. The only reason he didn't get in was because I had pushed one of the benches near the door while changing. I froze. He pulled the door once more, harder this time. Then he stepped back and looked down the corridor toward reception. Toward me. I ducked below the monitor instinctively. For maybe 10 seconds, I stayed crouched there, barely breathing. Then I looked again. He was gone. I called the police. While I was giving them the address, I kept watching the monitors. The dispatcher told me to stay hidden, lock whatever door I was in, and not go back to the changing room for any reason. I told her my phone was still in there. She said, "Forget the phone." Then one of the parking lot cameras changed. Not glitched. Moved. Slowly. The view shifted away from the entrance and across the lot until it settled on my car. It stayed there. Someone had physically changed the angle of the outdoor camera. It was an old motorized unit, the kind controlled from reception. I looked at the desk in front of the monitor wall. One of the camera controls was lit green. Someone had used it recently. Then I heard something from the corridor. Knocks. On the office door behind me. I stopped breathing again. The dispatcher heard the silence in my voice and asked what was happening. I told her someone was outside the office. She asked if the door locked. I looked. No lock. Just a normal handle. Then came a voice. Calm. Male. Your phone is ringing. I didn't answer. He knocked once more. Harder this time. Then he said, "You dropped your keys too." That scared me more than anything up to that point, because my car keys had been in the pocket of my jacket in the changing room. I hadn't told him where my things were, which meant he had either been inside while I was changing, or he had been through my locker after I left. I backed away from the office door and into the small cleaning closet attached at the rear. It was barely wider than a broom cupboard, but it had a latch on the inside. I shut myself in and held my breath in the dark with the dispatcher still on the line. A minute later, I heard the office door open. Then footsteps. Slow footsteps over the vinyl floor. Drawers opening. A chair rolling. The footsteps stopped just outside the cleaning closet. Then nothing. I don't know how long I stood there in the dark. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 2 minutes. Then my phone started vibrating on the floor directly outside the closet door. I could hear it against the office tiles. He had brought it there. The dispatcher was whispering now, telling me officers were entering the building. I heard distant shouting from the front of the gym, then running. Then the sound of something metal hitting the floor near the weights area. The office went quiet again. When the police opened the closet, I was still holding the mop handle I'd picked up as a weapon. They searched the entire building. They found my phone on the floor outside the closet. They found my locker open, my jacket emptied out, my keys missing. And in locker 46, the one that had been locked before, they found my car key on a ring with one extra key attached that did not belong to me. It was a standard locker key. Number 43, my locker. The night staff guy turned up 20 minutes later from outside behind the building, dazed and bleeding from the side of his head. He said someone had hit him when he took trash to the rear bins. He never saw the face clearly, just a hood and gym gloves. The police reviewed the footage, but there were gaps. The man knew where the cameras didn't reach. He had entered behind another member around midnight, never checked in with a card, and spent at least 40 minutes inside before I noticed anything was wrong. That part stayed with me. Not just that he was there, that he had time. Time to watch who was alone. Time to move my phone. Time to go through my jacket. Time to stand outside the locker room listening. I canceled that membership the next day. About 3 months later, I got a letter from the gym saying there had been a security incident and that some locker keys had been replaced. No details. Nothing useful. I would have forgotten about it eventually, if not for one thing. When the police returned my belongings, my original locker key was on the ring again. I told the officer that wasn't possible. I had never been given a physical locker key for that gym. Their lockers were supposed to work with digital wristbands only. He checked the evidence photo from that night, and in the photo of the items recovered from locker 46, there were 2 keys on my ring. By the time I saw the actual ring in person, there was only 1. The officer said maybe it had been logged twice by mistake. Maybe. But ever since then, I keep thinking about the man outside that office door, and whether he took the extra key with him because it fit something much smaller than a locker, If you're a fan of creepy true stories, feel free to check out my playlist.